Good evening. Thank you so much for coming to the Virginia Museum of Fine Arts this evening for our program, Dressing Zulu, as you see on the screen before you. Actually, it's turned into Dressing Zulu and a little bit more, but I will mention that in a minute. So there's sort of a bonus, shall we say, for the program this evening. Let's get right to the goods. So, if you have been to our gallery today or yesterday, you may have noticed that we have two absolutely stunning Zulu outfits newly on view in the gallery, the woman's outfit on the left and the man's outfit on your right. We are absolutely thrilled to have this program tonight. It represents several sort of landmark or watershed moments for us. First of all, we have been benefiting greatly from a major grant from the Andrew Mellon Foundation for the technical analysis and conservation of the African collection here in the museum. We have a team of 6 or 7 of us, I think, working on this grant-funded project. And it's absolutely thrilling for me as the curator of a long time of the African collection to have such intense focus devoted to really serious study and learning about the African collection. And I will just say it again because I say it everywhere I go. Conservation is one of the great centers of learning in an art museum. It has certainly been the case in my career, and my curatorial team enjoys very greatly working with our conservation team on this project. And so with thanks to the Andrew Mellon Foundation for making this possible, the Zulu outfits were part of this. The preparation of the Zulu outfits have been part of our grant project. And so we're celebrating that tonight on an evening when we have many, many specialists in-house. Hello to you all again. We've been together all day at a symposium and tomorrow regarding the technical analysis and conservation of the African collection. This is a capstone event in the 3-year grant project that we have. So it's a really thrilling moment to see things coming together and to have everyone, shall we say, on our side and pulling and giving new information, and it's just really wonderful. I want to call to your attention that in the gallery, related to the work that we have been doing in this grant-funded project, are several other installations beside the 2 Zulu outfits. We've come up with some nifty names for them. One is called Many Shades of Red, and this is a pigment analysis of the color red on masks from the Congo. So if you go into that section of the gallery, in the regular display case is a special section where we have gathered together masks that employ the color red, made of different pigments and some of the meanings and associations behind that. We have another one called When Metaphor Becomes Material. And this deals with metalwork objects in our collection and also 2 power figures. It also engages you when you see the exhibition in our conservation operation. We actually have a photo mural up there showing the conservation studio, one of those places that is so rarely seen in a museum and yet is so critical to its mission. And we have extended didactics presented in little notebooks out on tables, as well as Surface Pros, I think they call them. They're like iPads, and you can go through the information. And I want to tell you that what we've done in these installations is we've taken some new approaches to the way we present information. And we weren't necessarily consistent between the 3 that I have named, the Zulu, the red masks, and the When Metaphor Becomes Material. But I just want to say, we would love to hear from you. If you take these installations for a test drive and you think, oh, this was really good, or you have a question or something, send us a note. a visitor comment card at the information desk, something like that. We would just love to have your opinions about what we're doing, because we are trying to get better at presenting the information that we have about these works of art. I also want to say that there is a fourth installation, not directly related to the Mellon Grant, that we have just concluded in the African Gallery, and it's called History from Below the Mountain, Paintings by Chibumba Kanda, and it involves paintings by Chibumba Kanda Matulu and photomontages by Sami Baloji, two Congolese artists. And it was on the screen cycling through, but I want to call to your attention a program here on April 18th, an artist talk with Sami Baloji. So I hope each and every one of you will return that night. Okay, now switching gears into our program. Over the past century, that's right. I forgot a little section, excuse me. So, the Zulu outfits. Where are we in the world? Okay, well, you see the map of Africa there, and you see the southeastern coast of Africa, KwaZulu, meaning Zulu land, or KwaZulu-Natal, the province today. So there are two little inset maps at the bottom, and a larger one over here on the right gives you a little topography. So this is where we are going on our voyage tonight. But I moved the Zulu outfits aside because Zulu beadwork communicates in a certain way, and Yoruba beadwork from Nigeria communicates in a different way. And so we're also going to do a comparative reading of Zulu and Yoruba, so it will open up the world of the expressive potential of beads, and I think that will give us a greater product altogether. Now, over the past century and a quarter, there have been a number of points of cultural contact between Virginia and South Africa and the Zulu people in particular. So it is with great reason that I have sought to amplify and acquire works from South Africa and from Zulu in particular. You can read the caption below the photograph here, but it's Orpheus McAdoo's Virginia Jubilee Singers, who performed in South Africa on two separate tour occasions during the 1890s. McAdoo was originally from North Carolina and was a student at Hampton. In 1895, John Dube, who had graduated from Oberlin College, went to Hampton, where he met with Booker T. Washington and learned about Tuskegee and Hampton. John Dube is at the center of this picture, and he was the first president of the African National Congress as of 1912. And he went to Hampton, visited with Booker T. Washington, and later built Hlengiwe Institute just outside of Durban in South Africa. And that is where Nelson Mandela cast his vote in 1994 out of reference for the actions of the first president of the African National Congress. So there is another link. And Dube suggested that his son Madikane Tsele attend Hampton, who graduated in 1911, as you can see, was celebrated in the Chicago Defender newspaper, the highlight, the headline being circled in red up there. And then Reuben Kaluza, a well-established Zulu musician, attended Hampton in the 1930s. I think he graduated in 1934. And he formed the African Quartet, which was made up of not all Zulu people, but Sierra Leone and Liberia, and he outfitted them. Just to show that point in the 1930s. These points make fitting that we provide a response of appropriate kind in our museum's African collection. And the beautiful beaded outfits that we have just installed give me quite a thrill that we are advancing our Zulu collection. These works were acquired in 2013 and have received very careful analysis, thought, leading into the treatment to make such a compelling presentation as they do in the gallery. And we're going to talk about that in our conversation tonight. As you can see, the chairs are set for a conversation that will begin shortly. We have especially to thank for the knowledgeable and generous collaboration of achieving this, of the friendship and collaboration of Hlengiwe Dube, who has instructed and worked alongside our conservation staff in conceiving the installation and in writing about these outfits in our labeled program, which you can read in the gallery. Hlengi is a master beadwork artist and a veritable encyclopedia of Zulu beading. She is currently with us for the third time since 2015, and we appreciate her willingness to travel so far. And it has been a special honor, and I know privilege for our conservation staff to collaborate with Hlengi. And I would like to ask you all to give a warm welcome to Hlengi to our stage tonight. Hlengi. Joining us in our conversation is our Mellon Fellow in Conservation, Catherine Gabrielli. Kate is a graduate of the Institute of Fine Arts in New York, and we are delighted to have her as part of our wonderful project team. Please welcome Kate to the stage. Kate will be providing a very informative interlude about the study of these outfits. Kate? And completing our conversation team regarding the Yoruba aspect, we are so delighted to have Professor Henry John Drewal. Henry is the Evjue-Bascom Professor of African Art at the University of Wisconsin. A specialist in the art of the Yoruba, in 1998 he co-organized with John Mason the quite literally brilliant exhibition of Yoruba beadwork called Beads, Body, and Soul. Henry is no stranger to our stage, and many of you will remember him in particular as curator and speaker for the exhibition of the art from Ife that we presented here in the museum in 2011. Please welcome Henry Drewal to the stage. Okay, are we all turned on? Hello, Hlengi. Just say hello.
Hello.
Good, we're on. Okay, fine. Just wanted to make sure that all of our electronics was operating. Okay.
I have a yellow.
You have a yellow? Oh. I'll ask the tech staff if yellow.
Hello. I have a green.
Woo. Okay.
I have a green light now?
Yeah, you have a green light. Okay.
Okay, green light.
Just set that down. Okay,
Green
fine.
light means go.
Okay, sorry for the little screech, but here we go. Hlengi, we are very grateful that you have shared your expansive knowledge of Zulu beadwork, your creativity, and your time with us, traveling several times from South Africa, as I mentioned before, to teach us and to work with our museum team on the two extraordinary beaded outfits. Can you tell us a little bit about these two outfits and your response to them? You can see them over there on the screen too.
Not too clear.
Okay, that's
yeah.
fine. In the collection.
Okay. Thank you for having me again in Richmond. I always have that warm welcome each time I come here. Mm-hmm. The two pieces that you see there, I don't know, can you hear me? Yeah. They're from north of KwaZulu-Natal. One is representing the married woman, and then the other one is representing the married man. Looking carefully at the married woman, the outfit that she's wearing, it's symbolizing that she's married. Maybe you can meet this lady on the walk, and then without even asking of her status, the way she's dressing, you can even tell that she is a married woman. And the headdress that she's got, it's a symbol of marriage, same like as you can buy your own ring, like having a ring on your finger. So we as Zulu people, when you get married, you have a headdress as a symbol of marriage, and also the leather skirts, which is black in color, and it's only worn by a married woman. So that's why I'm saying this is a married woman from Mapumulo area. How do I know that it's from Mapumulo area? Zulu beadwork, it's coded according to where you come from. It's also same like the registration of the car. I just see cars here written Virginia, so I know those cars are from Virginia. And KwaZulu beadwork, it's more like coded with colors, coded with stitches, and also the pattern that is used on beadwork. So this particular one, it's from Mapumulo area, which I'm originally born from, and it's made from different layers of beads, and then all the beadwork on aprons are online because the people who were beaders in the community, they were inspired by the sugar cane that was around them in the area. So, and then they were working with the Indians, people on sugar cane, and then that's what inspired them to have the lines on their beadwork. Richard, you'll have to stop me because once I start talking about beads, you people will have to be here until 12 noon. So, yeah.
There are many elements to these outfits, to the woman's outfit and to the man's outfit, but Hlengiwe, there are four that we have identified in addition to the headdress, the Isidwaba and the Zikwayo. Would you talk about those two?
We have Isidwaba. Isidwaba, it's made out of cowhide originally, printed in black. And it's symbolized, it's black because it symbolized that the price of the bride has been paid, and then the father of the bride agreed that everything Ilobolo has been done. That's why she was granted to wear the leather skirts. And Isikwayo, it's a front apron that's worn by a married woman as a front apron, and then there is also like a back shawl, which is called itete. And then itete in Zulu, meaning carry, so it means this lady, she's carrying her family to the new family, and also she would be carrying the babies that she will be bearing when she's in that family. And then on her daily life, she'll be wearing this as part of respecting the ancestors of the new family that she just joined. So.
And the uchodo?
Uchodo, the back apron. Choda, it means something older. So it means the apron is representing that it has to be worn by old people. So it would be an insult if you see like a young girl wearing that. That's why that it's very important that if you are going to get married, and before you do anything, go to the wise people in your area and get some advice, so that when you go to meet your new family, you don't come there and then you make your clan shamed of you because like the way that you dress, and then you haven't been told how to respect, how to behave, and how to dress as a married woman.
What can you tell us about the standing of this woman in her community based on what she is wearing?
First, the woman itself, the way that she dressed, it tells me that she's from the royal family, or she's come from a very important family in the area, because the scale, the size of the apron that she's got, it's unusual. It's only for people who come from special families or royal families. And then if you meet those people, like you walk and then you happen to meet the woman, you wouldn't call like Sawubona by the name, like maybe Sawubona Mamkize, no, because she's from the royal family. You already have it on mind, like how would you greet him? By praising him, by praising her because you know her status without even asking her status, like just the way that she dressed, and it tells that this is how. And then like in our culture, it is important, like if you meet someone, you wouldn't just like walk straight like and shake hands and hug. It's something else because we don't know anything about hug. But when you talk to someone, you have to show like a little bit respect and then bend a bit. Either you have your hands both together or you have one at the back and then start to talk. And then you don't have to talk like eyes straight and then just bend your head a little bit so that you don't see that person.
And as you can see, we chose to put the left hand behind the back. As Hlengiwe was saying, the two hands could be on the cane or one hand behind the back. And as a part of our thinking, we wanted to be able to reveal the absolutely gorgeous belt, and it would be blocked if we drew the hand across the body. So, Hlengiwe, you advised us in the posture of the mannequin that we would dress. Can you tell us about the way a Zulu woman would stand?
First, like, it's not that like what I'm saying, it's what I've seen people doing, it's also what I practice at home. So like, you have to show like a little bit bend so that like that people can see that you are concentrating on him or her when you meet. And also it's very important that like whatever you do, you're not only doing it for yourself, but also for your family that are not with you, especially like when you greet someone. I know like in your language, you've got like morning, afternoon, evening and some, but in Zulu, we've got just sawubona, which you may think like hello, but for us, we mean sawubona ninjani. So I'm not only talking to you, but I'm also asking, how are you? Not only to you, also to your family at home, to your ancestors. So your reply will be also referring to all the families there. That's why it's important, like when you meet someone and then greeting someone, you have to know that it's not only that that person is greeting you, but also the families at home.
Just one more thing, I'm going to back up a few slides here. And we have a picture of your grandmother and your mother and you on the screen. Three ladies who are very important in the history of collecting Zulu beadwork. Can you tell us a little bit about how this started and how you learned so much about Zulu beading?
I come from a family which were respected in Mapumulo area because our great-grandmother was a Sangoma. And we always have like people who would come to be trained to be a Sangoma. And then when my grandmother, Madlamini, married to the Zulu family, and she was married to the elderly son, and she would be assisting the grandmother with beading of the people who come specially to be trained. Because like when it goes to Sangoma with beads, you're not beading according to what you like, but you're beading according to what your ancestors has asked you to put the colors together as a way of communicating with your late people. And my grandmother started beading, although like she was beading even when she was a girl, because the costume that she was wearing on her wedding day was what she made herself, because the Dube family didn't pay enough price of the lobolo, and my great-grandmother from the Dlamini family refused to bead for my grandmother, and she said, you are on your own, because what they paid. On that time, I was told that the car was like 10 rand, and then I said to my grandmother, okay, it means you were paid for 11 cows, so the Dube family only gave the Dlamini family 110 rand, as a price of the bride. I can see why your mother didn't want to help you with the beads. And then we always like laughed on that. And then my grandmother like started making beads. And then when she joined the Dube family, she started making beads again. And also for my mom and other siblings at home. And also the communities, if they want like something special to be worn, they will ask my granny because she knows a lot. And also our grandmother was very good on putting colors together, like talking with beads, the messages, like doing a love letter doing a special piece, like she would know like what colors talk to each other. And then my mom, she started also collecting, and we've been, the family, like the whole family, my mom, my grandmom, my aunts, my sisters and brothers, we've been collecting for many years and host a Magugu exhibition, which is a treasury exhibition that was happen annually at the African Arts Center, which I used to manage for over 2 decades, and where we'll invite the museums and the private galleries to come and select for their collection. So I had an interest to know more about the pieces, because I had an opportunity to meet Professor Jolis, which was an expert on bead, and then he guided me on what to ask to people when I go to the field, so that it will make sense for the museums, if they want to own the pieces, to find out is it worth it for the museum to have the piece. Because for me to have a piece, just a necklace, without an information, I don't think it's worth it to add on the collection of the museum, because like you have to know more about the actual pieces. That's when I started to go to the actual people and get the information direct from the people who actually made the beads, wears the beads, and also who knows what's the difference and who's supposed to wear what.
Thank you. And you have communicated that to us so beautifully and generously in our installations upstairs. Now, we're going to take a little bit of an interlude, and we'll turn to the man's outfit a little bit later, but I'm wondering if Kate would take the stage and tell us a little bit about your process of analysis of these objects.
Oh, please. It's just such a pleasure to be awash in that again. It's something new every time, something I feel I need to write down. And I just think that conservation's contribution to this project was our habit of documenting and writing down everything that comes out when you look at the beadwork, and also, of course, teaching us the traditional stitches, which I was very poor at the outset, but I learned. And also the traditional ways of repairing beadwork. That was all a great project of learning and discovery for me. And I'm at a point in my life where I do really need to read directly from my notes. But this is a nice action shot of Hlengiwe in the lab with the components of the female ensemble splayed out. And this was a great opportunity for me and for the team to provide a cultural examination and a technical analysis to ensure the accurate documentation and presentation of the parts and of the whole of both of these ensembles. And it was the conservator's project to record Hlengiwe's narrative regarding how the materials were acquired, modified, processed, and manufactured, and to correlate this to observations and data regarding manufacturing techniques, processes, and material choice, especially as these ensembles illustrate variation in material and manufacture over time and space. The female ensemble viewed here is there in its reinstalled format, but here in its decomposed format is composed of aprons, bandoliers, love letters, a beaded belt, and an elaborate woven headdress with beaded decorations and leg bands. There are all of the I need to learn to look at the screen there. The male ensemble is similarly composed of front and back aprons, including a shorter orange back apron and a front cattail apron. There's a pouch and a candy tin and a snuff spoon, a bandolier, as well as a number of love letters that Hlengiwe will read to you later. The team started by sitting with Hlengiwe and recording her narrative accounting of each of the ensemble components, its position on the body, its function and meaning, its relative date, as well as the choices of the artist regarding color, pattern, and stitch type. Clearly, that's a wealth of knowledge right there. In addition to the general palette of colors and the vocabulary of patterns used, the type and arrangement of the individual elements of adornment and clothing combined to communicate important information about the wearer's marital and societal status. Each piece was photo-documented using our high-resolution medium-back digital camera before examination, and these photographs were then used to create condition maps to record the primary conditions in regards to the fabric thread, the glass beads, and the metal components. The conditions of the thread, such as embrittlement and breakage on many of the elements, had led to active bead loss that needed to be stabilized. And Hlengiwe went right to the task, stabilizing losses and breakage to the stitching in the areas identified. And she in-beaded large areas of loss without damaging original material. And this was all with the explanation that Zulu beadwork it involves undoing and redoing large portions of garments, as well as recycling older beads to maintain and repair, meaning that no garment would be left in a state of disrepair when displayed or used. In addition to improving the appearance of the garments, Hlengiwe's repairs stabilized them for future display. This in-beading used traditional stitch types, which Hlengiwe taught to us as she worked. We executed simple bead repairs using learned stitches to stabilize broken threads and prevent or arrest the loss of beads. This process also involved the recording of the Zulu names for the stitches, which were identified on various elements in the ensembles. To keep it simple, for all our sakes, the base for many of these patterns is the brick stitch on the top there, or the 15-5-5-5 on the bottom, while more elaborate constructions such as the knotting or knitting stitch are observed on the male and female aprons. Although the majority of the stitches described were based on the counting principle used, knowing the names of some of the stitches led to a better ability to read layers of meaning. For example, the stitch type on the lid of this man's beaded sweet tin is named for the footpath, the long journey the man must take from his wife to work for the white man in Johannesburg. Documenting this stitch structure, which here serves to emphasize how much the wife misses her husband, is important to the understanding and interpretation of the piece and the circumstance of its creation. Hlengiwe's survey of the pieces identified areas where material analysis could aid our understanding of how and when the components of the ensemble were made, and these technical examinations also helped us to accurately label materials for display in the museum. Analyses were performed using microscopy and various spectroscopic techniques, including Fourier transform infrared spectroscopy and X-ray fluorescence spectroscopy. Here, for example, where material choice was important to interpretation, polarized light microscopy was employed to identify red clay, used to anoint a woman's headdress and represent cow's blood during a wedding ceremony. Where there were interesting features of manufacture, such as with the use of plastic produce bags to make repairs to beadwork, techniques such as FTIR were implemented to identify the chemical makeup of the polymer in question. Additionally, X-ray fluorescence spectroscopy was used to identify compositional differences in beads produced in different periods, identified and dated by Hlengiwe's expert eye. The final and very important function of Hlengiwe's visit was to determine the proper position and arrangement of all the elements of the ensembles when worn on the body. Oh, I did not switch over. And a proper understanding of this was essential to the accurate presentation of these ensembles in the gallery. And we used muslin, fabric, and cord to create mock-ups to position them on mannequins. These were then placed in accordance to Hlengiwe's guidance, and then Hlengiwe modeled culturally appropriate postures as we described. She produced a cane for our mannequin, and we derived a way to support all of the elements of the ensembles and present them in a culturally appropriate and accurate manner. There's us mounting the mannequins. And the installation is now complete.
Okay. Very good. Thank you, Kate. So we are quite sure that we understand the condition of these objects, that they have been well treated and well cared for, and now well displayed. We'll now turn to the man's outfit, and I'm going to start with a little fun question for Hlengiwe. You like this man?
If he proposed, I wouldn't say no. On 2 points, I can say that if I get married to this man, I'm involving myself to a very rich family or to the royal family. Who knows, I might be a queen. So he's from the royal family in Enshrining, and it's all women's interest to dress the men stand out from the crowd. So it shows that the woman involved behind this man really love, and also showing the love for the husband, or by the way that she can make the beadwork so that he can always stand out from the crowd. The beadwork that you see there, it's, as I've said, it's very big. Apron, it shows that he's from the royal family. There's 2 triangles on the side, under the arm, on the shoulder apron, facing to each other. That's not just a design, but it's a message to this man from the wife saying, looking at me only me. So they're facing each other. So it means you are married now, you've only got an eye only for me. And then the same design, you'll find it on the love letter. And the actual colors that you see there, it's got pink. In Zulu, we said pink is pofu. Pofu means poor. So it means this woman didn't come, in fact, with the looking at the wealth of the man, but only come with a pure love. So she is saying, the message here, I'm in love with you, no matter what you have. You have your cows in your father's crowd, but I just love you. So not looking at the wealth of the man. And then, yes, I said you can stop me.
Okay.
Yes.
No, I'm not stopping you. I'm leading you on to another one, and that is, we happen to know that this beaded attire was made for Mthandeni Biela by his wife Mantuli Biela. Because the whole collection, in fact, to be here at the Virginia Museum, it was made possible by Gary van Wyk, and Gary had it in South Africa, and I was surprised when I came and touched the pieces and I saw my handwriting. Oh, it was collected by my mom. And it was very interesting that, like, all the way from Enshrining and then end up here, and then I've seen the piece again after the 2 decades. Wonderful example of provenance all the way back to the original owner. It was collected by her mother into the market to the Virginia Museum, and lo and behold, Hlengiwe has done a marvelous job working with us on it. The wonderful, wonderful story. And now, let's animate him. What's he doing?
He's carrying a sweet tin. They call it ishungu or ingane. So the sweet tin is used when the man is traveling the long distance. It can be used maybe as a lunchbox, put like dry food. But when you're going to special ceremonies, he can put like sweets, because he knows he'll meet maybe relatives of the wife and then give some other girls who comes from the same area as the wife comes from. And then on the hand, he's got a snuff spoon in Chengula, which is used for the snuffs.
And when would he wear this outfit?
It should be when it's going out for special ceremony, because I wouldn't say it's on the wedding day, because this was made by the wife. So it means the wife was already there. But the sweet tin was a gift from the wife to a man for the wedding. And then he would dress like this when he goes for special occasion. And sometimes when they got married, they would go to the studios to take photos. I'm sure some of you know those old black and white photos that they would just like dress up, like very fancy, just to go to the studio, all the way to the studio.
Now we have to get to the love letters. So you see up here, around his neck, he's got 4 or 5 necklaces that are beaded love letters. And I remember one of my favorite episodes was when I met Hlengiwe a number of years ago. I showed her a photograph of a Zulu woman's wedding cape that we have, and her comment was, "Would you like me to read it for you?" And I was in Durban at the time, and I said, "No, I'd like you to come to Richmond and read it for me." So anyway, we are in Richmond tonight, and Hlengiwe is with us. Here are the love letters. There's a close-up of them on the mannequin there. And they tell a story that begins before marriage and goes into marriage. So would you take us through these love letters?
Yeah, in our customs, love was always like a secret matter. You wouldn't say loudly about how you feel about men, but you'll do with action. And then action works with us. And with the secret of beads always as passing the message. The first love letter would be the one with the triangle, which they call it ujeza, the actual triangle. But the name of the love letter itself, it's called utate. It means take me. So this is the first love letter that the girl will have to make to the boy after proposing for many times, and then at the end, the girl agreed, and then she would make a love letter, but she wouldn't give it direct to the boy, but she will pass it to the elderly lady of the community that were more like guidance of the lady, and then she will pass it to the boy. And then the special ceremony will be held under the big tree. And then each color on top, that's where the letter is, that's where all the message is. And then the triangle facing down, it's a symbol of man. So the lady, she's saying, you are man enough to be my husband.
And then there's another letter.
The second letter, it's called a love letter as well, but it's got a special name called Itemba. It means my hope. And then it's got the designs, those designs, it's called shield design. So it means the woman is saying here, you are my hope, so I'm protected since I've got you as my loved one.
And then the third love letter is the 2 triangles.
Yes, only look at me, not to other ladies. So I've decided that I love you and you have to look only on me. That's why those things are facing each other.
And how about the colors?
The colors, you've got the green. And in this case, like she is saying, I know that you're not with me, working far away, but I'll wait. Green is a symbol of waiting. So like if you see water and on the rivers, you saw those stones against the river, because the water keep on bumping to those stones, they turn into green. So that's how they use green as a symbol of waiting, because like wherever he left the woman, she will just be there until he comes back from the white people where he will be working in. Why I'm saying
that's the orange.
Working on the white people, because it's got the orange, which means Iputukezi. So in Zulu, we transfer it as Iputukezi as white people, because those were the people that we normally our fathers and grandfathers would go to Joburg or Durban to work in mines with them. And then the blue color, it's symbolizing of missing someone. She would be missing the one that she loved, but what can she do? She will wait because she's there to work for the family.
And then the final love letter, which is on top.
That was the latest love letter that she made when they start like putting words now like alphabets. Izazi are the wise men. So she is referring to his husband as one of the wise men, and she will always love and wait for her, for him. Yeah.
And the other love letter, which is dimensional, shows the man and the woman.
It's
marriage.
Yes, yes, and it's got those triangle also that you see on that love letter. It's more like emphasizing that, yeah, when I said look only on me, and then it's on a euphorbia tree design. So it's a special design that's common from the area of Ishowe and surrounding.
And we have installed the love letters from earliest to latest, bottom to top, which is the way they would be worn.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing that. It's wonderful to be able to understand the form, both the form and the color. It's lovely. Now, we're going to switch gears and look at something very different. And I'm looking here at Henry and thinking, you must really love the way Zulu beadwork talks.
Yes, I'm very happy to hear that. Some of the Yoruba beads are also about love, but we talk about it as desire. And there are beads that are not shown. I'll talk about those a little bit later. But I had one quick question for you, and that is, are there any beads or motifs or colors that are used for somebody who comes from a Sangoma family, like you? Is there some way to tell that a daughter or a son is from a Sangoma's family?
The stripesy beads, it's normally like white with little bit of stripes. It can be either blue or red. Those are the common colors that are normally used by the people who come from the traditional family, the Hila family.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm asking that question because in a Yoruba context, the beads that appear in contexts, in various contexts, are not so much about personal family history. It could be about the personal identity of that one, but the beads are mainly used to indicate visually kind of social status within the society. And beads perform many different things in a Yoruba context. Yoruba have a saying, Ileke Lomo, beads are like children, children are like beads. So they equate their most precious possession, children, with the preciousness of beads. So they're regarded as items that are very special. They're special also because they are medicine, they are protective, they are empowering, they signal status and role within Yoruba society, and some of those beads talk about and express certain wealth and status within the society, within the culture, and also this expression of desire with certain beads that are not visibly shown, but that are under garments, but that are understood as being there. Beads in a Yoruba context are mainly restricted to certain categories of individuals. And these are individuals who are in a position of linking spiritual realm with worldly realm. For the Yoruba, the spiritual realm is Oro, and the world is Aye. Those people who have risen to positions of mediating those two realms are the people who get to wear beads, sometimes in profusion. These are people like priests and priestesses, like sangomas, diviners, certain senior members of certain institutions in Yoruba land, chiefs and elders, and also masqueraders, and royalty, especially royalty, as we have in this example of a king's robe or garment. Those individuals have been elevated to not a superhuman, but an elevated position in which they have been prepared and trained to mediate between spiritual realm and worldly realm. And the beads that they wear are signs of that elevated mediating role. So for an example, and then I'll give some examples of what kinds of mediation is taking place and how that expresses it. The beads are placed in different parts of the body. Certainly the head is decorated, as we're going to see with some of the crowns. But the other places, it seems as though, I think you have to think about the body as being the thread for the beads, because the beads are wrapped around points of articulation, like fingers, like wrists, like knees, like ankles, around the waist, around the elbow. Points of articulation, I think, are points where the body is expressing its energy and its action and its potential. And so beads are protecting it and empowering that action that needs to be taken in a life of action. And especially for these individuals who are asked to do special kinds of things in linking other world with this world. So for an example, a priest or a priestess of Shango will wear beads that indicate their role as a priest or a priestess. And then we'll know that they are a priest or a devotee of that divinity because of the color combinations. And this gets into Yoruba concepts of chromatics, of color symbolism, color intention. The Yoruba have three categories of colors. The hot colors, known as the pupa colors, reds and bright yellows. These are the hot colors. At the other extreme are the cool colors, the tutu colors. And that, for the Yoruba, is white. White is coolness, it's supreme coolness. So we have the hot colors at one end, cool colors, or very cool colors at the other end. And the third category of colors are known as dudu. These are the mediating colors. They're the darker colors. They can be warm, they can be cool light, but they're in between those two extremes. I think we need to remember that color is perceived not just simply by our sense of sight, but two other senses as well are involved, because we know that the impact of hot colors is that they advance toward us, and cool colors recede. They have that impression. So motion is one of the issues, one of the other senses in our perception of color. And a third sense is the sense of touch, because colors are about temperature, and by extension, they are, in the Yoruba view, an expression, color is an expression of temperament, that is personality, ways of acting, whether a person is hot-headed or cool and calm. And those attributes of the colors are then used to indicate and to express the personalities of divinities or of certain ancestors or of certain roles, like the colors that diviners use as mediators between these realms are often in that central range. It's a light yellow and it's usually a light green. So they're the mediating colors between the hotness and the coolness. So with that kind of introduction, let's talk about the robe.
Okay.
You have a
Do you want
question
to
for
switch
me?
to the back or leave the front?
Now, let's leave the front for now.
Okay.
And then we'll talk about it. So this is a royal beaded robe for a king. By its size, probably a king, not a queen. And it's got a whole series of these triangular motifs in panels that you're seeing, along with these concentric circles. And the concentric circles, I think, are kind of a reference in a larger sense to the Yoruba notion of the universe as a gourd, an enclosed gourd, which one half is the spiritual realm and the other half the worldly realm. And those are the things that a ruler has to deal with, social matters as well as spiritual matters. We also see a series of concentric rectangles on one side of the garment itself. And I think the ancestors are calling us now. And we've got a series of concentric circles on the shoulders. Those may be references to diviners' trays that Babalawo will use, both rectangular and circle, that are in fact a kind of also a reference to this kind of cosmic image of spiritual realm and worldly realm. Let's take a look at the back, because I think that's important. You've got the face, probably, I mean, it's very close to the way the faces would be shown on beaded crowns, and I think we'll see that in one of the examples of the beaded crowns. And we often understand those to be references to the royal ancestors, that the present occupant who wears that crown is being watched and guided by all of the former ancestors that have gone before, those kings and queens that have gone before. And we see it with the scarification marks on the cheeks to indicate the area that it's from. The fullness and the three-dimensionality of the eyes actually relates to something we were talking about with Ogboni brasses, and that is the prominent eyes in so much of Yoruba sculpture, which I think is clearly a reference to these kind of liminal states that these mediators go through because they're dealing with both worldly and otherworldly forces. And those large eyes are an expression of the Yoruba term of ojuinu, which is insight. So it's outer sight guided by insight. I think it's very important and interesting to note that that face is not on the front of the garment, but on the back. And I think of that expression that we have in our own country. He's got his ancestors watching his back. Because that's exactly what's happening here. In a Yoruba concept of the body and of protection of the body from potential negative forces, the weakest or the most dangerous places are right here, the things that you cannot see coming at you. And so for this king to be protected both in front and in back, and he has some weaponry on the front side that we'll talk about in a sense, metaphor, but a reference to it. He's got his royal ancestors watching his back. And this is from that front panel. And this beaded gown and other beaded gowns or abadas coming in Yoruba that we know in Yoruba land are very strongly influenced from the north, from Nukbe and Hausa weavers, tailors. And it's known as a Riga gown, and it was adopted and adapted by the Yoruba. So it actually comes from a culture north of there. It was these elaborate embroidered patterns with a certain number of knife blades. And so there's a kind of reference to warriorhood, to past warfare, to protection through weaponry, not only spiritual protection of ancestors at the back, but actual weapons in the front.
Let's see what we have next. Crowns.
Yes, we have some crowns, and the one in the center there, you'll see again a face of royal ancestors there. What that crown in the center is in the most traditional shape or form, and that is a cone form. And it plays on a deep form in various aspects of Yoruba arts and culture. Ultimately, it's I think, a reference back to the symbol for a person's inner head or spiritual head. And in the past, Yoruba individuals had shrines for their head, their destiny, their personality, their personal essence. That's translated and now elaborated in this royal crown. That crown is actually a container. It's not just a cap, but it holds within it empowering substances that the ruler must never see. He must always wear the hat, but it must be put on his head from behind. And in the past, if a ruler misruled, there was the Ogboni society that could ask them to be dethroned, and the message was, look inside your crown. That's the end of your time. And so we see a series of interlaced motifs on the crown, lots of zigzag forms referring to perhaps Shango or to lightning and thunder, the eyes of royal ancestors. What's missing from the bottom of that crown is the veil, because the face of the ruler would have been veiled with strands or a netting of beads.
Are Sangoma faces veiled?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Same way.
Yeah, and I see. So what's happening is that the individual identity of the wearer of that royal crown becomes a generalized presence of royalty, of rulership, and again moves that person out of the daily realm into a higher, more spiritual realm, as the veil would do for a Sangoma among the Zulu.
We have wonderful booths. I wanted to move on to another slide.
Okay.
Because I think it makes a really interesting comparison that draws our presentation together here. Enshrining the Head. To me, one of the things about beads, whether it's Zulu or whether it's Yoruba, is the enshrining of what it covers, whether it's a staff or whether it is a body. And here we have the Yoruba crown, and we have the Zulu Isikolo and beadwork.
Can I talk about the bird a little bit?
You can, certainly.
I haven't mentioned that.
Yeah.
Now, the bird in this context, in Yoruba beading, is a reference to the mystical powers of women. It means other kinds of things too, but I think that's one of the essential messages of that bird. And it's a reference to powerful women known as Awonyawa, our mothers. The women are the ones who have the power to bring life into this world, and they also have the power to take it out. And so any successful ruler needs to have the support and the guidance of women within the community, within the realm. And that bird, and sometimes multiple birds on the crowns, are a reference to that presence. I don't know what would birds mean? I think we saw some birds on the back of the women's attire.
It should be more like wishing to have an ability to fly and fulfill your dream, or see the loved ones on the other side.
I see. Okay. Well, yeah. Our mothers have the ability to fly. As they transform, they are believed to be able to move over long distances in a short time, to be everywhere and nowhere all at the same time.
Maybe we could talk a little bit about stitching. The Yoruba beads, if I'm not mistaken, are strung in a linear manner and then stitched down, almost as if it's like painting, painting with beads. Hlengiwe, on the woman's headpiece, we see some beaded, I'm going to say, sort of network pieces. very different type of stitching. What kind of stitch is that?
We have the one on white, they call it uheshe.
The triangle?
Yes, that's the one in Zulu name, they call it uheshe. It's more like a net, like an open net. And the top one, it's, they call it untlamvu ntatu.
So it's this up here?
Yes, yes. And then it's got the lines, which matches the lines on the apron. And yeah.
And then here we see the sort of linear play of beads on the Yoruba outfits detailed, and then the dimensional play. And this is beaded fabric. Am I correct in calling it that? Beaded fabric in the sense that there's no cloth behind it.
Yeah, that's a brick stitch, yeah.
Yeah, and the stringing of the beads in Yoruba beadwork and then the tying of it down is a process, a very fine but continuous process that the beaders go through, as you and your grandmother and mother did in the past. It refers to a kind of seriate patterning and process in Yoruba beading and in Yoruba society as well, in the separation of powers that are playing with each other, whether worldly powers or supernatural powers, spiritual powers. And I'm just wondering, Yoruba beaders have told me that when they're really into the work, they find themselves lost in time and in place. They go into a kind of state of meditation by this very intricate, repetitious practice of beading. Do people talk about it among the Zulu?
Beading, it's more like meditation. So like even if you feel sad, or once you touch bead, you forgot about this problem outside. And then it's also like once you start bead, you forgot that there's other things that you have to do. And then it's really like something that's you can't get away of. It's happened that I do lots of community projects in our country, and then I would say like the first time, like when we start in the morning, I would say like lunch break at 12. And then I call them and say, it's 12. And they'll say, 12 already? And then like they don't want to stop. And then we find like maybe some of them, they don't even like stand up to go and have lunch. Because like once you are on bead, you just glue yourself on bead.
And haven't you said you're never alone as long as you have your beads?
Yes. I always say like, people, they said, oh, what kind of a get? When I first fallen in love, I fallen in love with beads. And then I like beads because it never left me.
I want to thank you both for opening us to the world of Zulu beadwork and Yoruba beadwork, and more broadly, the world of beads, the wonderful, wonderful world of beads. And Kate, for your very delicate analysis of our superb Zulu outfits. And I wonder if we might open the conversation to the audience if there are any questions that you would have for either of us up here. And I think, Izzy, are you in the audience with the microphone? Right, I can't see because of the light, so if anyone has a question, Izzy will find you. Now we're getting some light on the subject matter. Do we have any questions for our panelists? Yes.
Good evening, and thanks for that interesting presentation. I have a question for Hlengi about the ancestors being the inspiration when a woman is making beadwork. So if a woman, say from Mapumulo, marries a man from Nongoma or from far away, when she goes to make beadwork pieces for him, and she's thinking of her ancestors, what dictates the style that she will make the beads in? Is it the style of where she came from, or the style of what she marries into?
That's a very good question. It is very important for the girl to know the background of the man that he's going to be involved with. Especially, you just not to know only the man, also to know the family, whether he comes from the royal family or just an ordinary family. And then also you have to know more about the area where the men come from. And then you go to the wise people it's always like people who get knowledge in your community that you go and get some advice. And then before you even start to make the love letter. And then the love letter will be the colors of your husband clan. Thank you.
Another question?
So if there's maybe this never happens, but if there's a garment and for some reason the cloth is spoiled, but you could harvest all the beads, do they do that in South Africa and in Yoruba land and then recycle them onto other garments? Or are they preserved because they're a memory of who the garment was made for or some other choices?
With South Africa, especially in my area, if the beads it's really like very damaged, you can take apart the beads and reuse it to make something new, but still using the same old beadwork because of the textile being too fragile to be used. And but for other things, you can also like bag the fabric and then secure the beads. But they always prefer like to take apart the beads when it's really fragile and then redo it. Maybe it can be the style that it was or the modern style because they call it isidala and isimanje. So isidala, no one wants to stay, maybe like if it's for young people, they don't want to use like the old style that was used by the grannies. They just want to go on their own style according to the period of time, that's all.
And I would say it's the same thing in Yoruba land. The beads can be reused if the garment starts to fall apart. If the beads, say for a bracelet, if it breaks and they fall, you lose some. You have to get some other ones to redo a bracelet. If you're a priest or a priestess for one of the divinities, you can use anything that you can find, but in making the replacement, you have to prepare it in particular ways because it has to, these beads, for their protecting and empowering roles, have to be fed. They have to be prepared to serve the role of helping that priest or priestess in their mediating in their trance performances, because that's what's going to happen. They're going to go into altered states of consciousness, and these are the things that help them get to those states to do the work that they have to do.
So in both cultures, do older beads have a privileged state? Case by case?
I didn't get the question exactly.
The question is, do older beads have a privileged state as opposed to newer beads?
Yes. The changing of the color shading also dated the beads. And also like the way the sequence of the colors goes, it also dates the beads.
And older beads in Yoruba context will have more importance given to them because they have been worn and touched and been part of people's lives over a generation or two generations. They begin to accumulate the body essence and spiritual essence of the person that wore them. They contain something of the ashe of that person. And so older beads would definitely want to be incorporated in with newer ones, and it gives that work a special status.
I have two questions. One is, what is the fabric on which you bead?
Is the fabric on the what?
On which you bead. What's the fabric?
What is the fabric you use to bead on?
The other fabric that was on the sample there, it's came from Milli Mill pack and then washed the writings, and then they bead over it, or otherwise it can be a fabric that can be bought as a cotton fabric.
Cotton?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
And my second question is, what are the beads made of? Are they all glass beads?
Yes. In this collection, it's all glass beads.
And where,
Although South Africa, we don't produce beads, they trade. Before the arrival of the trade beads, we use things like shells, bones, wood, and some clay colored in different soil.
so are they Italian or Chinese?
They're from Czechoslovakia, the
Oh.
ones that we have here.
Okay,
Yes, they're good quality ones.
thank you.
Okay.
Yes. Question over here.
In both of these cultures, when a person dies, are they buried with their full beaded outfits?
Did you hear the, can you say it a little louder?
In both cultures, when a person dies, are they buried in their full beaded outfits?
No, they wrapped with skin. There are some other parts of pieces, belongings that can be buried with, especially like the headdress in wood. Like in our culture, the beads you don't use on funerals. Even like in these days, you don't dress up with beads when you're attending the funeral. But the beadwork can be passed to the next generation, but only after the cleansing ceremony happened, which normally like after 2 or a year, depending on the family customs.
I think we have time for one more question.
Yes, sorry. Did the warriors wear beads for power?
Sorry?
Warriors, fighting men when they went to battle, did they wear beads?
Warriors.
Yes, they wear beads, and but specific beads maybe that can give them power. Like they will have colors like black, or they will have colors that shows their status, like the yellow. Also, it's a power color. And then those kind of colors also were used by the royal families. Even these days in our area, in Nyogeni clan, Nongoma and Ulundi, they still use bright colors because those are the powerful colors that they believe that the warriors has to use. But when they come back from the fights, they will be awarded with brass beads, which they can be hanged on the neck. They call it izindondo.
One more.
Sorry about that. I was given the mic. Thank you. Thank you so much for these very rich presentations and discussion. I am very interested to hear from any one of you, but especially from the two experts about the Yoruba and Zulu traditions, about the way bead artists designed, about the design process of these utterly stunning designs, and what the role of that is, what the balance is between existing models that they tap into, or maybe even models that are available and prestigious, and improvisation, where, for example, these extraordinary love letters seem to have been produced more spontaneously.
Go ahead.
Most of the designs that you see on the outfit, like especially like on aprons, the lines, as I've mentioned, that they were more get inspiration from the sugarcane farming, but the design itself, it represents like the mountains and the rivers from the area. That's why like it's very easy to identify the people where they come from. But the other designs, they were more like personal, like for example, on the love letter of a woman, it's got a lamp shade, a lamp paraffin, which is representing the brightness. So it means in this case, this woman, she's seeing herself as a lucky woman who had a bright future with this family. So like, yes, the design most of the time, there will be like something that can be personal to that person, or it can be something that get motives from the area, either from the mountain or from the rivers.
And Henry?
I think probably a combination of both given patterns that are passed down from master beader to apprentice beader. We haven't talked about that very much, but you know, the bead workers are a professional guild, and they're often working on commission. In the past, it would have been a lot for royalty, but also for these other important individuals, priests and priestesses and officiants and so on. So some of those patterns are the ones that are being passed down and regularized. There are our favorite ones like interlace patterns that are very extensive in the Yoruba beadwork, and Yorubas have indicated to me that it's again a kind of visualization of the eternal life cycle. We come into the world, we do our business, we move on to the other world, but we have the potential to be reborn again, a partial reincarnation in the next generation or 2 generations down. So there's this notion of a kind of unending infinity of existence, and I think that interlace is an expression of that. So that's one that's fairly typical, but there's also lots of improvisation and invention on the part of master beaders that they're pulling from everything that they're seeing and thinking about, and some motifs are more specific to certain kinds of contexts, whether priestly regalia or certain masquerading regalia, like in Egungun, panels and beaded panels that are put on ancestral masquerades often have an emphasis upon this kind of zigzag pattern that must enclose all of the panels of cloth, and that is called bala. And it's a way that the ensemble is enclosing ancestral power. And that board is what is sealing it inside for it to then be expressed in the performances. And so that triangle motif all around the border is often something that you'll see in beadwork that's used in these ancestral masquerades.
And I don't know that this is directly relevant, but I think it will be revealing. I've watched Hlengiwe bead a lot, and I've been coming in maybe the room because she's there beading, and then, well, what are you working on? Oh, well, I'm trying to invent something new, you know. And we were in Florida together, and there was Spanish moss hanging from the tree. And I grabbed some for her because she was interested in it, and the next day there was a necklace of Spanish moss. So, do you remember that? So, I mean, you know, it's just absolutely astonishing what Hlengiwe can create, and she beads very fast. So, thank you very much as an audience. I'd like to thank our panelists. Hlengiwe.
Thank you.